Welcome to the final exam, question number 11, and it says that the resultant of the two forces shown above is what? And they give 4 different diagrams, and I'm sure you could take a look at this and figure it out in 2 seconds. Say, for instance, A, B, C, D. Someone had commented that they wanted to look at for shortcuts. And in this case, A, if you look at the resultant, there's at least, let's call this, first of all, let's change it to purple actually. This is force A, let's call it. This is force B, let's call it. And force B has a y component to it. If you broke it down, it had a y component to it. So, you know A can't be true. If you look at the B, that looks like it. Okay. 15 degrees, who knows? 1932, magnitude, who knows? But that looks right. C, it's not going to the resultant's not going to go up and to the left, so we know that's not true. And most of it is in the x direction component, the positive x direction, so D is not correct. And in essence, this question should take you about 10 seconds to figure it out. Go down to your answer. Don't even solve this. Just look at it and think it through beforehand. But that's not my job here. I'm trying to figure out and show somebody how to do this, given they wanted to. But once again, that is the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and move on now and show you how you would solve it. And make sure that we get those answers that are 4B. Okay, so let's figure this out. So this is going to have 2 components, right? F A in the x direction, F A in the y direction. And we know that FA in the y direction equals 0. And FA in the x equals 1,000 pounds. So that's the components of this FA. Now, we want to look at FB, force of B. And, well, you could say that's 30 degrees. Let's make this 60 degrees. Once again, you could have put it up here. You could have made it go right there, but it's easier to show like so. So, now we need to know SOHCAHTOA. And knowing what I know, it's going to be 1,000 times either sine or cosine of 60. And this is going to be 1,000 times the sine or cosine, the opposite of whatever this is. If this is sine, this will be cosine. And we know that this is our angle that we're talking about. So cosine is CAH, which is adjacent. So this will be cosine. And this is sine because it's opposite. Here's your angle. This is opposite the angle. This is adjacent to the angle. That'll be cosine. And once again, you can work this out by saying SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. And I hope you remember this. If not, you need to memorize what this means. Sine of the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. And then the cosine of the angle, equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And then the tangent of the angle equals opposite over adjacent. So over here, we say, I said it was cosine, because it's cosine is adjacent, so that's good, and we know the hypotenuse. So since we know the hypotenuse, we know it's going to be not this. So it's going to be one of these two, because we know the hypotenuse. Those both have hypotenuse in it. All right, so the cosine of the angle, we said this is going to be cosine. This is adjacent. Is adjacent over hypotenuse, and adjacent is this down here, so that's what we're solving for. So let's call it FB y FBX, and this is positive and that's going to be negative. Alright, equals, what do we say, FBY over the 1,000, since that's the hypotenuse. So you take it over here, you multiply the top by 1,000. To get rid of it, you multiply this by 1,000, and that's how I got this over here. that fay equals that. And you could say, oh, call it negative fay, and that's how I got the negative over here. But you just say, since it's going down, you call it negative. And you don't have to do that, but I do. All right. Now, so we've got our components. Now we add our components. So we say, we'll call FR, and we know that it's going to be, let me think. If you added this, the parallelogram theory says it should be about right here. So here is our resultant. And you should, that's how you should have known from the beginning, is the parallelogram theory. Right off the bat, you just make a parallelogram out of these two, and you got it. I think it's called the parallelogram theory. Don't quote me on that. All right, let's switch to another color. So that we're going to call this FR for force resultant. So we're going to have, to get FRY, we add FAX plus FBX, whoa, FRX. And then we have FAY, FBY, and FRY, fry. Alright, so let's go ahead and work this out. And once again, you did not need to do all this, but this is necessary if you want to know what you're doing in structural engineering. Also, for a quick note about practical usage of this is, you'll use this all the time actually in the breaking down components, but mostly when you're designing a truss and you're figuring out you have a joint here, and you know this, and you know that, and you know that, or you don't know this. Let's say this is your reaction and it's 1,000 kips, and well, you don't know this. This is A. This is the force of AB. This is the force of AC. And how do you figure this out? Well, you have two unknowns. Shoot, I can't do it. Well, once again, you can break it down into components. You know that, hey, this AC has no Y component, therefore all the, since you know once you break this into a free body diagram and you know it has to be in equilibrium, then you know that the FABY will equal 0, and then you can go work that back through and you get FABX, and then you can also get FAC, because that's going to resist, it's the only thing that's going to resist that FABX. Alright, practical usage over. Now let's go back to this problem. FAX equals, we have it right here, 1,000 pounds. And that's in the positive direction. FBX equals 1,000 sine 60. I'm going to go ahead and solve for that. Actually, no, I'm not going to. Yeah, I will. 1,000, I'm going to turn my calculator on. 1,000 sine 60 equals 866. Obviously not perfect, but close enough, and that's in pounds. 866 pounds, and that is positive. FAY equals 0. FBY equals 1,000 cosine 60. We know that's going to be negative, so that's 50. Negative 50. We add these together, we get a negative 50. FRY component, and 1,866 pounds. And that should make sense. This is on the same line as FB is. If you think about it, it goes straight over, so it should have the same Y component, which it does. It's both negative 50, negative 50. Alright, so to get what our component is, or our resultant, equals the square root, and this is Pythagorean theorem. 1,866 pounds squared plus negative 50 pounds squared. And that's going to equal 1,866 squared plus 50 squared to the 0.5. And actually made a typo earlier. This is 500. 500 and 500. So let's do that again. 1866 squared plus negative 500 squared equals to the 0.5, 1932, give or take, 1931.8. 1931.8. So let's just call it 2. 1932 pounds. All right. And as you can see, that matches up with what they have on the answer. Now let's also work our way back into finding, let's change it to green, this angle. We know it's 15 degrees, but let's prove it. What is theta? And there's a few different ways you can figure this out. Let's do it from our resultant. Or if you think about it, our resultant, if you make a right triangle here, and you say that alright, there's our right triangle. What do we know? Well, we know all the sides. This is 1932, which is our hypotenuse, and I think the easiest would be tan TOA in this certain circumstance, 1,866 pounds, and this is 500 pounds. Obviously down, but we'll just call it 500. And in this case, TOA, which is tangent of theta, equals opposite, which is going to be 500 over 1866. And so you go second tan, this is tan inverse of 500 over 1866. And you get 15. So theta equals about 15 degrees, which, as you can see, it's going to be exactly 15 because we rounded these. So 15 degrees, theta equals 15 degrees. And that matches up, and we got the example perfect. But of course, all of this didn't need to be done. You could have done this problem in 10 seconds. Hope my guidance has helped, and I will see you on question number 12.